The isolated village and the observer nestled in the heart of a desolate valley. The village of Wexley had long been a place of quiet obscurity, its people bound to the rhythms of the land and the passing of the seasons. It was a place where the wind carried the scent of damp earth and the distant cry of unseen birds, where the sky stretched endlessly above, unmarred by the presence of modernity. The villagers lived simple lives, their days spent tending to fields, mending fences, and passing the hours in the company of family and neighbors. Yet, for all its isolation, Wexley had always held a peculiar air of mystery, as if something beyond the reach of human understanding lingered just beyond the horizon. Among the villagers, one man stood apart, not for his wealth or status, there having in a village as one man stood chi, but for his insatiable curiosity. Thomas Whitmore, a retired schoolteacher and amateur astronomer, had spent the better part of his life gazing at the stars, his mind ever drawn to the vast unknown. He had long believed that the universe was teeming with secrets, and though the villagers dismissed his musings as the ramblings of an old man, Thomas knew that something was coming. He had noticed strange patterns in the sky, celestial objects that did not conform to the known movements of the stars. At first he had dismissed them as mere illusions, the tricks of an aging eye, but as the nights passed, the anomalies grew more pronounced. It was on one such night, as Thomas stood alone on the hill overlooking the village, that he saw it. A faint, flickering light in the sky, unlike anything he had ever encountered. The air around him seemed to hum with an unseen energy, and for the first time in his life, he felt the weight of something beyond human comprehension pressing upon him. Whatever this was, it was not of this world, and he knew that his life was about to change forever. The arrival of the unknown. Thomas's breath caught in his throat as he stared upward, his heart pounding with a mixture of awe and unease. The flickering light had grown brighter, no longer a distant speck, but a distinct, hovering object in the night sky. It was unlike any known celestial body, neither a star nor a planet, but something entirely foreign. As he squinted through the darkness, he saw that the object was not stationary. It moved with a slow, deliberate grace, as if it were studying the earth below. The light pulsed in rhythmic intervals, casting an eerie glow upon the landscape, illuminating the trees and fields in an unnatural, otherworldly hue. Trembling, Thomas reached for his notebook, his hand shaking as he fumbled to open it. He had to document this, to ensure that the world would know what he had seen. He scribbled hurriedly, noting the time, the position of the object in the sky, and the strange, almost hypnotic pattern of its movement. He could not shake the feeling that he was being watched, that unseen eyes were fixed upon him from the heavens. As he continued to observe, the object descended, its descent slow and unerring, as if guided by an intelligence beyond human comprehension. The air around him grew heavy, thick with an unseen presence, and a strange hum filled the silence, vibrating to the ground beneath his feet. Thomas's mind raced with questions. What was this thing? Was it a natural phenomenon, or something else entirely? He had spent years searching for answers in the stars, but nothing had prepared him for this. Then, with a sudden, almost imperceptible shift, the object came to a halt above the valley, hovering just above the trees. It was massive, a dark, metallic sphere, its surface smooth and impenetrable, reflecting the moonlight in strange, shifting patterns. Thomas could see no windows, no visible openings, yet he was certain that something was inside. The object pulsed again, and for a moment the air around it seemed to ripple, as if reality had seemed to a halt above the trees. It was massive, a dark, metallic sphere, its surface smooth and impenetrable, reflecting the moonlight in strange, shifting patterns. Mind warring between the rational and the inexplicable. He had spent his life chasing the mysteries of the cosmos, but this was something else entirely, something that defied all known science. He had to know more. He had to understand what this was and why it had come. As the silence stretched, the object remained suspended in the sky, an unspoken challenge, a question posed to the earth below. Thomas stood frozen, his breath shallow, his mind teetering on the edge of revelation and terror. Whatever this was, it had arrived, and he was the first to witness it. The mystery of the craft. Thomas's mind raced as he studied the object, his rationality warring with the growing sense of unease that gripped him. He had spent years poring over scientific texts, analyzing the movements of celestial bodies, and speculating on the possibility of life beyond Earth. Yet nothing in his knowledge prepared him for this. The object was not a mere aircraft or a natural phenomenon. It was something else entirely, something that defied the known laws of physics. He had to understand it. He retrieved his telescope, setting it up with trembling hands, his breath shallow as he adjusted the lenses. The object remained suspended above the valley, its surface reflecting the moonlight in strange, shifting patterns. He focused the telescope, his eyes narrowing as he examined the details. The material was unlike anything he had ever seen, smooth, impenetrable, and impossibly dark, as though it absorbed the very light that surrounded it. There were no visible seams, no signs of propulsion, yet the object remained in motion, defying gravity with an ease that suggested an understanding of physics far beyond human comprehension. Thomas's fingers traced the edges of his notebook, his mind working furiously. He had read about the theoretical possibilities of interstellar travel, of machines capable of traversing the vast distances between stars. But this was not a theoretical construct. This was real. His heart pounded as he considered the implications. If this object had come from beyond the solar system, then it meant that intelligent life had not only existed, but had traveled across the void of space to reach Earth. The thought was both exhilarating and terrifying. He flipped through his notes, recalling every scientific paper he had ever read on the subject. He had studied the works of astronomers and physicists who had speculated on the existence of alien civilizations, but none of them had ever imagined that such a thing would come to pass. He had always believed that the universe was teeming with life, but now, standing beneath the alien craft, he realized that belief was no longer a theory, it was a certainty. His hands trembled as he reached for his sketches, attempting to capture the object's form. He had never seen anything like it, and yet he felt an unshakable sense that it was not random. The way it moved, the way it pulsed, it was deliberate, as if it were watching him, waiting for something. He could not shake the feeling that he was not the only one who had noticed its arrival. Thomas inhaled deeply, steadying himself. He had to know more. He had to understand what this was and why it had come. The answers lay beyond the reach of human knowledge, but not random. The way it moved, the way it pulsed. It was not random. The way it moved, the way it pulsed. It was deliberate, as if it were watching him, waiting for something. He could not shake the feeling that he was not the only one who had noticed. He would not turn away. He would find them, no matter the cost. First contact! As the object remained suspended above the valley, a sudden shift in the air sent a shiver through Thomas's spine. The hum that had filled the silence moments before now grew louder, resonating through the ground beneath his feet. The craft pulsed again, and then, with a slow, deliberate motion, a section of its surface rippled as if it were made of liquid metal. A seam formed, expanding outward with a fluid grace, and from within a figure emerged. Thomas gasped, his breath catching in his throat as he took in the sight before him. The being was unlike anything he had ever imagined. Tall, with a form that was both human and alien, its body covered in a smooth, iridescent exoskeleton that shimmered in the moonlight. Its limbs were long and elegant, moving with an unnatural fluidity, and its face, though vaguely reminiscent of a human's, was entirely foreign. Its eyes were vast, luminous, and filled with an intelligence that sent a chill down Thomas's spine. The being did not move forward immediately. Instead, it stood motionless, its gaze fixed upon Thomas as though it were assessing him, weighing his worth. Then, slowly, it raised a hand, and from its palm a faint glow emanated. A moment later, a soft hum filled the air, and Thomas felt a strange sensation in his mind, as if thoughts were being placed directly into his consciousness. At first, he could not understand the message, but as the sensation grew stronger, he began to grasp fragments of meaning. It was not speech in any conventional sense, but rather a form of communication that bypassed language entirely, transmitting thoughts and emotions directly into his mind. The being was not hostile, nor was it indifferent. It was curious, and it was watching him, waiting for a response. Thomas's heart pounded as he struggled to find words to formulate a reply. He had spent his life searching for answers, but now, faced with an intelligence beyond human comprehension, he found himself at a loss. He took a hesitant step forward, his voice trembling as he spoke. I am Thomas Whitmore, he said, his words barely more than a whisper. I am a human. I live in Wexley. I have been watching you. The alien regarded him for a long moment, and then, with a slow, deliberate motion, it extended its hand once more. This time, the glow from its palm was brighter, and the hum in the air grew louder. A strange sensation washed over Thomas, as if the alien was offering something, knowledge perhaps, or understanding. He hesitated, his mind racing with the implications. What was this being trying to tell him? What did it want? Was it here to warn him, to communicate, or was it something else entirely? He could not shake the feeling that this was only the beginning, that the encounter had only just begun, and that the encounter had only just begun, and that the answers he sought would not come easily. The message from beyond Thomas's breath came in shallow, uneven gasps as the alien's luminous eyes remained fixed upon him, their depths unfathomable. The hum in the air grew louder, resonating through his very bones, and the glow from the alien's palm intensified, sending a wave of warmth through his chest. Then, with a sudden fluid motion, the alien raised its hand, and the glow coalesced into a series of luminous symbols that hovered in the air between them. At first, they were incomprehensible patterns of light and shadow that shifted and changed, as if they were not meant for human eyes. Thomas's mind reeled, his thoughts a whirlwind of confusion and curiosity. He had spent years studying the languages of the stars, the patterns of distant galaxies, the enigmatic signals that had long eluded human understanding, yet nothing in his knowledge prepared him for this. He took a cautious step forward, his fingers trembling as he reached out toward the symbols. The moment his hand brushed against the air, a sudden surge of understanding flooded his mind. The symbols were not merely A message. They were a form of knowledge, a language that transcended words, a means of communication that bypassed the limitations of human speech. It was as if the alien had placed the very thoughts of its people into his mind, offering him a glimpse into a world beyond his own. He gasped as the meaning unfolded before him. The alien was not here to conquer, nor to destroy. It was here to share. It spoke of a vast network of civilizations scattered across the stars, of a collective knowledge that had been built over eons, of a history that extended beyond the reach of human imagination. The message was not one of war, but of unity, of the potential for understanding between species that had never before met. Thomas's heart pounded as he struggled to process the enormity. It was as if the alien had placed the reach of what he was seeing. The alien had not come to take, but to teach. It had traveled across the vastness of space to reach this remote village, to make contact with a species that had only just begun to look beyond its own world. Yet even as the message filled his mind with wonder, a deeper question gnawed at him. If the alien had come to share knowledge, then what was the purpose of its presence? Was it merely an observer? Or was there something more? He turned his gaze back to the being before him, his mind racing with possibilities. The alien regarded him for a long moment, and then, with a slow, deliberate motion, it extended its hand once more. The glow from its palm flared, and the symbols in the air shifted again. There, meaning changing. This time the message was clearer. It was a warning. Something was coming, something that the alien had not yet revealed, and Thomas, standing at the threshold of the unknown, knew that his journey was only just beginning. The village's reaction. Thomas returned to the village with a mind alight with revelation, his heart pounding with the weight of the knowledge he had received. He had to share what he had seen, to make the people of Wexley understand that they were not alone in the universe. But as he stepped through the village square, he was met with a sea of skeptical faces, their eyes filled with confusion and fear. He called out, his voice trembling with urgency, "You must listen to me!" There is something with the weight of the knowledge he had received. Something with the weight of the knowledge he had received. He had to share what he had seen, to make the people of Wexley understand that they were not alone in the universe. But as he stepped through the village square, he was met with a force. "Has come here, and it is not hostile. It wishes to communicate." A murmur spread through the gathered villagers, their expressions shifting from curiosity to unease. A farmer stepped forward, his face lined with suspicion. "You're speaking nonsense, Whitmore. That light in the sky, surely it is a natural phenomenon, or perhaps a trick of the eye." Thomas clenched his fists, his frustration mounting. "It is not a trick of the eye. I have seen it. It is not a trick of the eye. I have spoken with it. It is real." A woman gasped, her hands clutching her chest. "You have spoken with it. You have seen it. What does it look like?" Thomas hesitated, his mind recalling the alien's luminous eyes, the strange, fluid movements of its form. He had to describe it to make them believe. "It is unlike anything you have ever seen. Tall, with a body covered in a shimmering exoskeleton. It moved with an unnatural grace, and its eyes were filled with knowledge beyond our comprehension." A hush fell over the villagers as his words sank in. Some looked at him with wide-eyed disbelief, others with growing fear. The idea of an alien presence, of a being that had come from beyond the stars, was too much to accept. Then a young boy stepped forward, his voice trembling. "But if it is not hostile, why is it here? What does it want from us?" Thomas had no answer. He had only just begun to understand the message the alien had imparted. He could not yet explain the warning that had been hidden within the symbols, nor the sense of urgency that had filled the air. As the alien had spoken to him, the villagers exchanged uncertain glances, their fear growing with each passing moment. Some turned away, unwilling to believe what Thomas had told them. Others whispered among themselves, their voices laced with doubt. Thomas took a step forward, his voice rising above the murmurs. "You must believe me, we are not alone, and if we do not understand what is coming, we may be unprepared for what is to follow." But even as he spoke, he knew that the battle for belief had only just begun. The revelation of the alien's mission, Thomas stood frozen, as the alien's luminous eyes regarded him with an intensity that sent a shiver down his spine. The message had been clear, but there was something more, something that had not yet been revealed. We may be unprepared for what is to follow. Had come not merely to communicate, but to warn. He had spent his life searching for answers in the stars, but now, standing before an intelligence that had traversed the vastness of space to reach him, he realized that the greatest mystery was not the existence of alien life, but the reason for its arrival. The alien raised its hand once more, and the symbols in the air shifted, their meaning deepening. Thomas's mind struggled to grasp the full weight of what was being conveyed. The alien was not merely an observer, it was a messenger, a representative of a vast interstellar network that had existed long before humanity had even begun to look beyond its own world. It had come to share knowledge, to offer guidance, and to ensure that the message was understood. The alien's form shimmered, and for a moment Thomas saw something beyond the physical, the vastness of the cosmos, the countless civilizations that had risen and fallen across the stars. He saw the history of the galaxy, the rise of empires that had once stood as the pinnacle of their worlds, only to be consumed by time and entropy. He saw the great journeys of exploration, the bonds forged between species, the knowledge passed from one world to another, and he saw the warning. Something was coming, something that had already begun to move across the stars. Thomas's breath came in shallow gasps as the realization settled upon him. The alien was not merely here to share knowledge, it was here because the time for understanding had arrived. The message was not just an offer of knowledge, it was a call to action. The alien had seen the course of human history, the conflicts that had shaped the world, the wars that had torn civilizations apart. It had come not to conquer, but to guide, to ensure that humanity did not repeat the mistakes of those who had come before. He turned his gaze back to the being before him, his mind racing with the implications. If the alien had traveled across the stars to reach this moment, then the message it had brought was not merely for him, it was for all of humanity. And if they failed to understand it, if they refused to listen, then the consequences could be catastrophic. The alien's luminous eyes did not waver. It was waiting, watching, as if it knew that the weight of the decision rested upon Thomas's shoulders. And as the wind whispered through the trees, Thomas knew that the time for hesitation had passed. The warning and the choice. The air around Thomas seemed to still, as if the very fabric of reality had been suspended in anticipation. The alien's luminous eyes remained fixed upon him, its presence an unspoken challenge, a question that demanded an answer. The symbols in the air shifted once more, their meaning deepening, and for the first time, Thomas felt the full weight of the message that had been imparted to him. The alien was not merely here to warn, it was here to prepare. The warning was not of an immediate threat, but of a coming reckoning, a convergence of forces beyond human comprehension. The alien had seen what was to come, had witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations that had once stood as the pinnacle of their worlds. It had traveled across the stars, not to conquer, but to ensure that the mistakes of the past would not be repeated. And now, standing before Thomas, it was asking a question that would shape the fate of all humanity. The symbols pulsed with a sudden intensity, and the hum in the air grew louder, resonating through the valley like the tolling of a distant bell. The alien raised its hand, and the glow from its palm flared, illuminating the night sky in an unnatural, shifting light. Thomas's breath caught in his throat as he saw the images forming in the air, vast, luminous structures that stretched across the stars, a network of civilizations bound by a shared knowledge, a collective understanding of the universe's vastness. But then, the images shifted, and the warning became clear. Something was coming. A force that had already begun its journey across the stars, one that had not been stopped by the wisdom of those who had come before. It was not an enemy in the conventional sense, but a force of change, of transformation, of the inevitable march of time. And if humanity did not act, if they did not prepare, they would be unready for what was to come. Thomas's mind reeled as the implications settled upon him. He had spent his life searching for answers in the stars, but now he understood that the greatest challenge was not in the discovery of alien life, but in the decision of how to face it. The alien had come not to take, but to teach, to ensure that humanity would not be left unprepared for the future. That lay ahead. He turned to the villagers, his voice steady despite the storm of emotions within him. You must listen to me. The alien is not here to destroy us. It is here to warn us. Something is coming, and if we do not understand it, if we do not prepare, we may be unready for what is to follow. A murmur of unease spread through the gathered crowd, but for the first time there was a flicker of understanding in their eyes. The alien had not come to take, but to guide, and now the choice was upon them. The aftermath of first contact. As the alien's luminous presence faded from the night sky, the valley of Wexley remained in stunned silence. The villagers, once filled with fear and skepticism, now stood in quiet contemplation. There, the alien had not come to take. Eyes turned toward the empty expanse of the heavens. The alien had not spoken in words, yet its message had been clear. It had come not to conquer, but to warn, to offer knowledge, and to prepare humanity for a future that lay beyond their comprehension. Thomas Whitmore stood at the center of the village square, his heart still pounding with the weight of what had transpired. He had spent his life searching for answers in the stars, and now he had found them, not in the form of distant civilizations or celestial mysteries, but in the presence of an intelligence that had reached out across the vastness of space to make contact. The alien had not come to take, but to teach, to guide humanity toward understanding. The villagers, once hesitant, now gathered in quiet groups, whispering among themselves, their expressions no longer filled with fear, but with a strange, newfound curiosity. Some had seen the alien with their own eyes, and they spoke of its luminous eyes, its fluid movements, the way it had communicated without a single word. Others, though they had not witnessed the encounter directly, now believed in it, in the possibility that they were not alone in the universe. Thomas turned to the villagers, his voice steady. We have been given a chance to understand, to prepare, to grow beyond our own limitations. The alien did not come to take from us, but to offer us knowledge, and if we do not listen, if we do not act, then we may be unready for what is to come. Had once gripped them had not vanished, but it had been tempered by something greater, a sense of purpose, a realization that they were no longer merely the inhabitants of a quiet village, but a part of something far greater. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, the alien was gone, its message lingering in the minds of those who had witnessed its arrival. The world beyond Wexley remained unchanged, but for those who had seen the truth, the course of human history had been irrevocably altered. The endless horizon as the sun rose over Wexley, casting its golden light across the valley, the village stood on the precipice of a new understanding. Cosmos, a reminder that humanity was but a single thread in the intricate tapestry of existence. The alien had come not to impose its will, but to offer knowledge, to bridge the chasm between worlds that had never before met. And in doing so, it had left behind a question that would echo through the ages: what else lay beyond the stars, waiting to be discovered? Thomas Whitmore, standing at the edge of the village, gazed toward the horizon, his mind alight with the possibilities that had been unveiled. He had spent his life searching for answers in the night sky, and now he had found something far greater than he had ever imagined. The alien had not come to take from humanity, but to teach, to guide, to ensure that the mistakes of the past would not be repeated. And yet, even as the message had been imparted, it had left behind an unspoken challenge. Could humanity rise to meet the future that lay ahead? The villagers, once bound by fear and uncertainty, now stood at the threshold of something new. The alien had not merely changed their understanding of the universe, it had changed them. They had seen the truth, and in doing so, they had become part of something greater. The stars, once distant and unknowable, now held the promise of knowledge, of connection, of the infinite possibilities that lay beyond the limits of human comprehension. And yet, the alien had departed, leaving behind only the echoes of its presence and the weight of its warning. The message had been clear, the future was not yet written, and the choices that lay ahead would determine the course of humanity's journey. Would they embrace the knowledge that had been given to them, or would they remain blind to the vastness of the cosmos? The answer, like the stars themselves, remained beyond their reach, waiting for the moment when the next chapter of human history would begin. Do not forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more stories. Hit the notification bell to be notified of new stories when they become available. Feel free to leave a comment and tell me if you enjoyed the story and want to hear more like it.